it's Tim here. We're in the beautiful little town of Rapunyup and we're talking to Chris. How are you, Chris?
Good mate, how are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you, man. So, how long have you been down here?
We bought the pub in December last year.
So you're a newbie?
A newbie, yes.
Right.
Yeah, but
So,
yeah.
When you took over the pub, where did you come from to come here to Rapunyup?
So we are from Lilydale in the Shire of the Yarra Ranges in Melbourne. So
Yeah.
we're right on the edge of the sort of the regional type metro border type thing, which is a bit frustrating. But yeah, we're sort of about, I reckon, half a k from all those wineries that you have there and those big
nice.
sloping sort of paddocks and the wineries and
Yeah.
everything. So yeah, so we're not city people per se. We are sort of from that sort of region. So yeah.
So what made you come from a place like Lilydale with people everywhere to a nice quiet little country town like Rapunyup?
Well, my wife and I were looking for a place, like a business. We were looking for something that had accommodation, and my wife took a trip up here middle of last year, and I stayed home, and she came back and she said, I've found something wonderful. And
very nice.
So
So you come out here and you bought the pub.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit of the history about the pubs that you know of since you've been here.
Yep.
Because I noticed something on the wall over there, and you said it's a newspaper, 2 pages from what year?
1931.
And where did you find that?
I found that in the dining room. We have a dining room function room, and we renovated that. And as I was sort of ripping up the floorboards on one side, I looked in and there was that newspaper sort of stuffed in there like it was holding something up, and I took it out very carefully. There was actually 2. One of them disintegrated in my hands, and that one I just grabbed. It was folded, so it was all folded up into a very small package and packed in there. I took it to the freezer, chucked it in the freezer, so any mites or bugs or anything that were in there killed it straight away apparently. So.
Wow.
Took it to the freezer, left it in the freezer for a little while, took it out, put it in the fridge, and then it sort of became damp and wet, and I was able to
Smooth it out?
smooth it out and then gradually iron it out, and then got it up on the wall there. Yeah.
I was having a look at it before and I could still read the wording on the printed paper.
Yep.
And for 2 pages out of a newspaper, 89 years ago.
Yep.
And you've got it in a beautiful frame and up on the wall.
Yep.
So some of the characters that frequented the pub years ago and still come in now.
Yeah. Well, from what I've heard, there was a lot of characters over the years. I mean, we're talking 120 years of history in this place.
Oh, if these walls could talk.
Oh, if they could, yeah. And literally that wall over there that I restored, which is usually that lime plaster on the walls there. Well, that was on that wall there, and I've restored that wall back to its glory. And that actually found out that there's a scar down that wall there, and that would block off. That would run from a wall from there over to here. You see a sort of a scar over here.
Yeah.
And that was apparently, so I'm told, a wall where it would block off the worker from the bosses. So the bosses would go in here, they'd sit in there, have their drinks and whatever.
Oh, there's cognac and things like that?
Absolutely, and there's a small window here, and they wouldn't have to interact with the workers. The workers would be here doing what they do.
Imagine if that was like that today.
Oh,
There'd be an uproar.
it would be.
So,
Yeah.
but it's good to see nowadays everybody's just mingling in together.
Yeah.
So the idea of a local pub in the town, for me anyway, is so anybody can come in, have a quiet beer, talk to the publican, which is yourself, talk to their mates, have a good laugh and a joke. It's somewhere for the community to gather.
Yep, absolutely.
Right? Even if they come in and just have a quiet beer and not say a word, but at least they know there's somebody there that, can understand what's going on with them.
Yep.
Because, the publican and the local pub is a centre hub basically to help locals deal with mental health and things like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, and we noticed that there's a couple of little plaques on the end of the bar there.
Yeah. There's one over there for Jimmy Kurtz, who was a regular here. One of his mates came in one day and said, "Can you put this on the bar for me?" I said, "Absolutely, no worries." And there's another one over there, Bob Bell. I never knew Bob, but that plaque was there when we got here. And for me to take that plaque away would be travesty, it really would. So
That'd be sacrilege.
It would. So I left it there out of respect for him. And I was saying to you before, he sometimes lets me know when things aren't quite right, I believe. So, so I mean, when Rupp had the 150th, the back to March, before it was sort of pre-COVID. If you
So how long has Rapunyup been here?
150 years.
150 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow. I was reading something earlier. Rapunyup actually had 2 different town names before Rapunyup.
Oh, right, fair income.
Yeah, and it was the local council all the way back then decided that Rapunyup was going to be the name of Rapunyup.
Mm. There you go.
So yeah, it's something different, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there used to be 3 pubs here.
I believe there used to be 2 from what I know. There's a picture of one of them up on the wall there, the Royal.
Right.
And the Royal was up where Emmett's is.
Yeah.
The side of Emmett's. So the fact that this pub survived and that one didn't is basically come down to that this was a brewery pub.
Aha, right.
This was a brewery owned pub. That was not a brewery owned pub. So the money was poured into this one, and I think that one got left a little bit too long. And that's the thing with these old buildings is, I believe when we got here, we sort of caught this just in time because a building 120 years old or whatever this is. I mean, this is 120 years old for this building as it is. There was a previous, I believe, tavern on this site, which goes back 140, 145 years.
So this would be round about the original site of the pub?
Yeah, this is the original site. I've got the land titles of the original shack 140 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was just literally a wooden shack, and then Mrs. Fernley, who was a lady who came from Stawell, she was one of the first ladies in Victoria who got a licence. She came out and they built this hotel, and originally it was a double story.
I wonder what year that was.
That was
the first female to get a licence to run a pub.
Yeah, it was pre-1900s. So this was built around about the turn of the century. And from what I understand, it was supposed to be a double story, but the top story caught on fire during construction. And
so they didn't bother with it?
They didn't bother because apparently, from what I hear, Mrs. Fernley was quite cunning and quite a good businesswoman. She, I believe, took the insurance money from the top and might have used it for the bottom.
Yeah, well, back then they wouldn't have had the records to chase it up and everything else like that.
No.
So with everything going on in the world at the moment, especially affecting small communities and small towns and small businesses, with everything going on with the water shortages and the work situations and everything else, and especially with COVID at the moment, how is that affecting the town and people's mental state and mental health?
Yeah, well, I think that I can't sort of speak for the people in the town in regards to their mental health, but you do see that there's a strain on everything at the moment where it's a bit like everyone's sort of stretched too far. And I think there's always going to be, with particularly blokes, mental health denial.
I know that one. I've got my own mental health issues and everything else, but that's a story for another time for myself. But no, I know what the young generation and the middle generation and some of the older generation are going through with that. And for a small community like this, as you said, with everything going on, especially with the COVID and stuff, it has a big impact on a small community.
It does, and it stretches farther than, and it's going to stretch farther than we can imagine. It's going to go on.
So with the community and all the sporting things that's going on in the community, is yourself and the hotel involved with these communities, like the footy club? Do you have a netball club, a cricket club?
We do. There's a footy club, netball club, cricket, and there's a lot of other sporting activities. We're looking next year to be heavily involved with the football club, sponsorships and functions and so forth. And with the obviously the football club and netball club coincide together. So yeah, we are looking at having a good partnership with them. Yep.
So what other community involvements do you have outside the pub?
Well, we have quite a good Rapunyup major events. They're a group of young people that get together and fundraise for the town.
Right.
So they will put on barbecues for Australia. They will do lots of that. And the Barley Banquet, which is the big event for Rapunyup in October, which has obviously been missed out this year.
So what is the Barley Banquet?
The Barley Banquet essentially is a setup in a field, in a paddock, and they've got big marquees, big tents, and they usually get about 400 people there. And it's quite a high-end event. So the RME organised that. So they're a group of really fantastic young people that are really passionate about their community, and they do everything they possibly can to fundraise for the community. And if you go outside and you see the chainsaw art, that was something from the major events, and just things that they do to keep the town moving along. So yeah, fantastic organisation.
Well, that is true community spirit.
Yeah.
That's, as you said, that's the younger fellas and just everybody in general.
Well, it's a group of young women and young men in the community who are leaders in the community. So we're talking young farmers, young business people, and they donate their time, volunteer their time.
Well, that is a really good example of the farming community getting in and helping the small town that they actually get their supplies and everything else from, to help keep their own community alive and to keep it strong and surviving.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's obviously there's other Lions Club. They do a lot of work with, they've got the caravan park there. They do a lot of work around, and there's a lot of proactive people in this town. We've got, we've just got a new takeaway, vegan takeaway down the road there that's opened up. And we've got Seed and Sprout, which is Beck Dunlop's little caravan that goes around everywhere, just promoting local grain, the local healthy food. So you've got so many people in this community that really are proactive.
Yeah, and doing everything they can to keep their community alive and to keep it growing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, it's a great concept, and it was something that blew me away, and it's a selling point for us coming up here too. So when we first came up here, we were blown away by that, and we were absolutely blown away by the positive attitude and the never say die attitude of the community, and we were welcome and still are welcome with open arms. Just before I put a call out on Facebook saying, is anyone going to Horsham? Can they get me some ice? Yeah, and they come from everywhere. Yeah, I'll get it. And I had to sort of hang on, one person, because I don't want 50 bags of ice.
That's not going to be melted by the time it gets back.
Well, no, but that's the sort of thing where they realise that there's I'm here by myself and running around trying to do it, and they're like, can we help? Can we help? Can we help? It's always can we help.
They're just people trying to make a living and make the most of what they're given, and sometimes just making ends meet. And yes, it's easy to drive on through this town. You just keep rolling through and life won't slow you down. But if you could take the time and pay a little down the line, maybe you could help turn someone's life around. Just another main street, just another town.